The arena went pitch black, and in that split second of suffocating darkness, every single person in that building knew something catastrophic was about to happen. Because when the lights die in WWE, when that eerie silence swallows 20,000 screaming fans whole, when you can literally feel the electricity crackling through the air like a storm about to unleash hell itself, that's when legends are born. That's when careers are ended. That's when the entire landscape of professional wrestling gets ripped apart and stitched back together into something unrecognizable. But nobody, and I mean nobody, was prepared for what came next. The countdown started. 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. The crowd's murmur building from a whisper to a roar. Security guards exchanging nervous glances at ringside. Bron Breakker standing in the center of that ring, championship gold draped over his shoulder, cocky smirk plastered across his face like he owned the entire damn world. And then, boom, that music hit. Not just any music. Not some generic entrance theme that gets mild pops and polite applause. No, this was the sound of absolute chaos personified. The sound of violence wrapped in leather and denim. The sound of a man who doesn't just break the rules, he burns the entire rulebook and laughs while the ashes scatter in the wind. Jon Moxley had returned to WWE SmackDown. And the look in his eyes said only one thing: I'm here to destroy everything you've built, Bron Breakker, and I'm going to enjoy every single second of it. The crowd erupted. Not cheered. Not applauded. Erupted. Like a volcano that had been dormant for years suddenly remembering what it was built to do. Grown men were losing their minds. Kids were standing on their seats. Even the commentary team, professionals who've seen it all, who've called 1,000 shocking moments, were stunned into momentary silence before losing their collective composure. Because this wasn't just a return. This was a declaration of war. Moxley stormed down that ramp like a man possessed, like every step was calculated violence waiting to explode, like he had spent every single day since his departure planning this exact moment down to the microsecond. No pyro needed. No elaborate entrance choreography. Just raw, unfiltered intensity in human form. And Bron Breakker, that cocky facade starting to crack just slightly around the edges, the championship suddenly feeling a whole lot heavier on his shoulder, knew exactly what was coming. Question for you watching right now: when you saw Moxley's face in that moment, did you feel it too? That primal understanding that someone was about to get absolutely demolished? Drop your honest reaction in the comments. Let's rewind for a second. Let's talk about how we got here. Because this confrontation, this collision of two unstoppable forces, didn't just materialize out of thin air. This was weeks, months, possibly years in the making. This was karma, destiny, and pure wrestling poetry all converging into one earth-shattering moment. Bron Breakker had been on an absolute tear. Not just winning matches. Not just collecting victories like they were trading cards. No, Breakker had been systematically dismantling the entire SmackDown roster with a level of brutality that would make his legendary family proud and terrified in equal measure. Name after name. Superstar after superstar. Each one left broken, battered, questioning their career choices in the middle of that ring. He wasn't just winning. He was sending messages. He was making statements. He was building a resume written in other people's blood and broken bones. The Intercontinental Championship? Conquered with disgusting ease. Veterans who should have given him a challenge? Destroyed before the 5-minute mark. Rising stars who were supposed to be the future? Reduced to cautionary tales about what happens when you step to Bron Breakker unprepared. And with each victory, with each devastating spear that folded grown men in half, with each gorilla press powerslam that shook the ring like a minor earthquake, Breakker grew more arrogant, more untouchable, more convinced that he was operating on a level nobody could reach. He started cutting promos that weren't just confident, they were disrespectful, calling out legends, dismissing Hall of Famers, claiming that his generation was superior, that the old guard needed to step aside or get stepped on, that WWE was his show now and everyone else was just renting space. The locker room seethed. Social media exploded. Fans were divided between those who admired his ruthless ambition and those who desperately wanted to see someone, anyone, humble this man before his ego became bigger than the building itself. And then it happened. 3 weeks ago. The incident that changed everything. Breakker didn't just win a match. He obliterated his opponent so thoroughly, so viciously, so far beyond what was necessary that medical staff had to stretcher the man out. And instead of showing even a shred of remorse, instead of at least pretending to care about his fallen adversary, Bron Breakker grabbed a microphone and issued an open challenge that would haunt him forever. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what you've accomplished. If you think you can step into this ring with me, if you think you can survive 5 minutes with the most dangerous man in WWE, then bring your best shot, because I promise you, I will break you, I will end you, and I will do it with a smile on my face. The words hung in the air like a curse, like a spell that once spoken couldn't be taken back, like he had just signed a contract with forces beyond his understanding, and the wrestling gods heard him. Because when you make challenges like that, when you call out the universe itself and dare it to send you its worst, you better be prepared for the universe to answer. And answer it did, in the form of Jon Moxley walking through that curtain like the personification of every regret Bron Breakker was about to have. Here's what you need to understand about Jon Moxley. This isn't some corporate molded superstar reading scripted lines from a teleprompter. This isn't someone who plays a character on television and then goes home to a normal suburban life. Moxley is the character. The violence, the intensity, the unpredictability, that's not an act. That's who he is down to his DNA. This is a man who left WWE at the peak of his career because he refused to compromise his artistic integrity. Who went to Japan and tore the house down in brutal death matches that redefined what Western audiences thought about hardcore wrestling. Who helped build an entire rival promotion from the ground up. Who consistently proved that he didn't need WWE, WWE needed him. And now he was back. Not because he ran out of options. Not because he failed everywhere else. But because he chose to be back. On his terms. With his creative freedom intact, with nothing to lose and everything to prove. And that makes him the most dangerous man on the entire roster. Think about this, do you remember the last time Jon Moxley returned to a wrestling ring after time away? Did the people responsible for his absence ever walk normally again? Exactly. The stare down was electric. Moxley in his street clothes, leather jacket still on, looking like he just walked off the set of an action movie where the hero doesn't save anyone, he just destroys the villains more efficiently than they destroyed others. Breakker in his gear, championship glinting under those arena lights, muscles tensed, that arrogant smirk fading into something that looked suspiciously like concern. The crowd was deafening. Dueling chants battling for supremacy. Some fans firmly behind the returning legend, others loyal to the dominant champion. But everyone, and I mean everyone, wanted to see these two collide right there, right then, consequences be damned. Moxley grabbed a microphone. The arena somehow got even louder, which shouldn't be physically possible but happened anyway because wrestling crowds operate on emotion and adrenaline, not physics. And when he spoke, his voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes right before a hurricane levels an entire city. Bron Breakker. I've been watching you. I've been watching you run your mouth for weeks. I've been watching you disrespect everyone in that locker room. I've been watching you act like you're some kind of god that can't be touched, can't be stopped, can't be humbled. Pause. Long enough for the words to sink in. Long enough for Breakker's jaw to clench. Long enough for the entire arena to collectively hold its breath. And I've been sitting at home, recovering, healing, planning, and wondering when someone was finally going to step up and teach you a lesson that your daddy and your uncle apparently forgot to mention during all those legendary training sessions. The crowd lost it. The disrespect. The direct challenge. The absolute fearlessness of calling out not just Bron, but his entire legendary lineage. This was warfare, psychological and physical, packaged in a 30-second promo. So here's what's going to happen, kid. You wanted someone to answer your challenge? Congratulations. You got the one person in this entire company who doesn't give a damn about your last name, doesn't care about your undefeated streak, and certainly isn't impressed by that shiny belt you're clutching like a security blanket. Another pause. Moxley taking one step closer. Then another. Closing the distance between destruction and detonation. I will destroy you, Bron Breakker. Not figuratively. Not in some poetic wrestling promo kind of way. I mean literally, physically, violently destroy everything you think you are. And I'm going to do it in front of all these people so that when you're lying in that ring, staring up at the lights, questioning every decision that led you to this moment, you'll know exactly who ended your little reign of terror. The microphone drop was seismic. Not tossed aside casually. Dropped. Like the gauntlet being thrown down in medieval times, except the gauntlet was wrapped in barbed wire and soaked in gasoline. And Bron Breakker, to his credit or his stupidity depending on your perspective, didn't back down, didn't flinch, didn't blink. He raised his own microphone, the championship now firmly gripped in his other hand like a weapon waiting to be used. Moxley, you're living in the past. You're a relic. You're everything that's wrong with guys from your generation who can't accept that we're better, we're faster, we're stronger, and we're taking over whether you like it or not. Oh, the youth. The beautiful, naive, suicidal youth. You want to destroy me? You want to humble me? You want to teach me some kind of lesson? Then let's stop talking and start fighting. Right here. Right now. Let's see if the legend lives up to the hype or if you're just another old dog who forgot that young wolves don't respect, they devour. And that's when everything went sideways. Moxley didn't wait for a referee. Didn't wait for a bell. Didn't wait for permission or protocols or proper match sanctioning. He exploded forward like he'd been shot out of a cannon, tackling Breakker with such velocity that both men went crashing through the ropes to the outside in a tangle of limbs and fury. Security rushed in. Officials tried to separate them. Good luck with that when two men who have built entire careers on controlled violence decide they're done being controlled. They fought through the barricade. over the announce table, up the ramp, fists flying, elbows connecting, neither man gaining a clear advantage because both were operating on pure rage and adrenaline. And then reinforcements arrived, not just 2 or 3 guys, 15, 20. The entire locker room emptying to prevent these two from killing each other before the company could properly book and promote the match that was now inevitable, that was now the only thing anyone in that building wanted to see. Here's my question for you: who wins that fight? Not who you want to win. Who do you honestly think walks out victorious when these two finally get that sanctioned match? Comment your prediction right now. But here's where the story gets even more complicated, even more layered, even more absolutely insane. Because this isn't just about Moxley versus Breakker. This isn't just a simple rivalry between a returning legend and a dominant champion. There are wheels within wheels, plots within plots, alliances that might form and betrayals waiting to happen. Think about the rest of the SmackDown roster. All those guys Breakker demolished on his way to the top. All those veterans with bruised egos and valid grudges. Do they sit back and watch Moxley do their dirty work? Or do they see an opportunity to pile on, to ensure that Breakker gets what's coming to him from multiple directions simultaneously? And what about Adam Pearce, the SmackDown general manager, who now has to figure out how to book and control two wrestlers who have made entire careers out of being uncontrollable? How do you put these two in a match structure that satisfies their need for violence while also maintaining some semblance of order and television-appropriate content? Traditional match? Not nearly enough. These two need stipulations. They need weapons. They need an environment that allows for the absolute chaos they're both famous for delivering. Steel cage? Too limiting. Last man standing? Getting warmer. Unsanctioned match where neither man is officially responsible for what happens and medical staff is on standby. Now we're talking. But here's the real genius of this entire angle. The reason this works on every possible level. The reason fans are already salivating over every possible outcome. Both men have legitimate claims to being right. Moxley represents old-school wrestling values. Respect. Paying your dues. Humility even in victory. The understanding that today's champion is tomorrow's challenger and you treat everyone accordingly because the business is cyclical and what goes around comes around. Breakker represents new-school wrestling reality. Why wait your turn when you're clearly better than everyone else? Why show respect to people who had their time in the spotlight and now need to move aside? Why play by rules that were written by and for a generation that no longer exists? It's tradition versus evolution, experience versus raw talent, calculated violence versus explosive aggression. And there's no clear right answer, which makes this so much more compelling than simple good guy versus bad guy storytelling. Let me paint you a picture of what happens next, based on years of analyzing wrestling storylines and understanding how these narratives typically evolve. Over the next few weeks, we're going to see a psychological warfare campaign that makes Cold War espionage look friendly and straightforward. Moxley is a master of getting inside opponents' heads, of saying exactly the right thing to trigger exactly the wrong response. Breakker is young, hungry, confident to the point of arrogance, which means he's vulnerable to manipulation even if he doesn't realize it yet. Expect Moxley to show up unexpectedly, during Breakker's matches, during his interviews, during what should be his triumphant moments, not necessarily attacking. Sometimes just being present, watching, waiting, making Breakker paranoid, making him look over his shoulder, making him wonder when and where the real assault will come. And Breakker, unable to resist responding, will escalate. He'll talk more trash. He'll become more aggressive. He'll potentially make mistakes in matches against other opponents because part of his brain is always thinking about Moxley lurking somewhere in the arena. This is professional wrestling psychology at its finest. Break the opponent mentally before you ever lock up physically. But there's another element we haven't fully explored yet. The championship. That Intercontinental Championship that Breakker carries like both a badge of honor and a target painted on his back. Is that what Moxley wants? Does he care about championships at this stage of his career? Or is this purely about revenge, about putting an arrogant young star in his place, about reminding everyone that legends become legends for a reason? Quick question, if you were booking this, would you have Moxley win the title, or is the real victory just destroying Breakker's aura of invincibility? Which ending would satisfy you more? Let me know in the comments. There's also the very real possibility that this story goes beyond a one-on-one rivalry. Wrestling history is littered with feuds that expanded, that brought in allies and enemies, that became locker room-wide wars affecting multiple storylines simultaneously. Who sides with Breakker? The younger generation who see him as their champion, their representative in a changing industry? Wrestlers who respect his talent even if they don't like his attitude? Who sides with Moxley? Veterans who appreciate his willingness to stand up for old-school values? Wrestlers who have personal grievances with Breakker and see this as their chance for proxy revenge? Imagine the television this creates. Backstage segments where allegiances are formed and tested. Tag matches where temporary partnerships expose underlying tensions. 6-man or 8-man battles that are really just excuses to have everyone beat the hell out of everyone else. And through it all, Moxley and Breakker orbiting each other like binary stars, their gravitational pull affecting everything and everyone in proximity. Now let's talk about the match itself. Whenever it happens, wherever it happens, however it's structured, because that's what all of this is building toward. The inevitable collision that will either cement Breakker's status as the future or re-establish Moxley's dominance in WWE. This won't be a technical wrestling classic. This won't be a 5-star work rate exhibition where they trade holds and counters for 30 minutes. That's not what either man does best, and it's not what this story demands. This needs to be a fight. An actual, legitimate, hard-hitting, brutal fight where both men are willing to sacrifice their bodies to prove a point. Where the wrestling moves are secondary to the raw aggression and desire to hurt the other person. Moxley excels in this environment. His entire career has been built on creating uncomfortable, violent moments that make audiences simultaneously cringe and cheer. He understands how to work stiff without actually injuring people, how to make every strike look and sound devastating, how to tell a story through physicality rather than just athletic displays. Breakker is no slouch in this department either. His power game is legitimately terrifying. When he hits that spear, when he lifts someone for a gorilla press, there's no theatrical exaggeration needed. He's genuinely that strong, genuinely that explosive, genuinely capable of ending someone's night with one mistake. So imagine these two styles colliding. Moxley's technical brutality against Breakker's raw power. Experience and ring psychology versus youth and athleticism. Neither man willing to stay down. Neither man willing to show weakness. Both men pushing each other past limits they didn't know they had. The near falls will be heart-stopping. The weapon shots will echo through the arena. The crowd will be on their feet for 15-20 minutes straight, unable to sit because the intensity won't allow for passive observation. And the finish, whenever it comes, will be absolutely perfect for whoever wins. If Moxley triumphs, it's the veteran showing the youngster that experience and cunning still matter, that you can't just muscle your way through every challenge, that legends earn that title by consistently proving themselves against all comers. If Breakker wins, it's the ultimate validation of his claim that he represents the future, that even returning legends can't stop his momentum, that the new generation isn't just coming, they've already arrived and conquered. Either way, both men's stock rises. Because losing to Jon Moxley after a brutal war isn't shameful, it's expected. And beating Jon Moxley in his return instantly makes you the most dangerous person in the company. But here's the twist nobody is talking about yet. The possibility that's lurking in the shadows of this entire story. The wild card that could append everything we think we know about how this plays out. What if neither man wins cleanly? What if this rivalry is designed to introduce a third element? Another wrestler with their own agenda, their own reasons for wanting both Moxley and Breakker distracted or damaged? Wrestling history is full of moments where a heated feud between two competitors created opportunities for someone else entirely. Where the real winner was the person who stayed patient, watched the chaos unfold.